Hello, everyone, and welcome Eric Peterson. We're going to talk a little bit about private investigations today. Some information you want to know and some information you may not want to know. But really, what is a private investigator? I mean, should we call you Magnum, Beretta? What should we call you, Mr. Peterson?
I don't have a good mustache game, so just call me Eric.
Perfect. So how did you get into private investigation?
So it was a natural transition after my law enforcement career. And I started doing executive protection early on in my law enforcement career. And the majority of my law enforcement career was investigations. And so it was a natural progression. I had some good mentors and good people that helped me out. And then I just, built it and kept going. And now my business is in different directions in terms of what we can handle and what we do.
So what are some of the primary things you do as a private investigator currently?
So we handle any type of civil case, criminal case, background investigation, whether it's like a lower level background investigation for somebody that's looking to maybe date somebody and want to know what they're up to an extensive employee background investigation where we're spending at least a month on it. And in terms of the surveillance and overall investigations, the question that I get so much is, I've never had to call a private investigator. So, and I hear that a lot because they say, hey, I kind of feel weird doing this. I've never had to do this. And so I put them at ease. But basically, I think in an overall sense, I'm a problem solver, and for chaos that people are experiencing in their lives. But in addition to that, I have attorney clients who handle specific sets of either criminal or civil investigations, and I'll do interviews and gather evidence, go to crime scenes, things like that. And lately I've been getting a lot of calls where maybe people aren't getting the maybe rapid police response investigative wise on certain things, whether it's a burglary or something like that. And so we're handling that. And then, I also coordinate with the police department and help, build the case or give them what I've discovered. And then because of the security background that I have, I do home security assessments, and then we set up security for individuals or estates based on what they've experienced typically.
So from the first part where you were talking about working like around legal circumstances, I think a lot of people out there probably watch some different shows on television. I know I've noticed one show called Blue Bloods where, there's a private investigator or an actual cop that works for the DA. So sometimes you kind of act in that type of role for the police department, or on the opposite side to help someone that's maybe being prosecuted.
Yeah, I mean, I've handled both. I've handled people who are victims of crime, and I've handled people who are potentially falsely accused, which happens, as you can see, if the numerous documentaries on Netflix that are coming to light. So to give you a couple examples, somebody, is a victim of stalking, and the police are handling it, and the district attorney will file it if the case is there, but the police have to do their investigation and then hand it to them. But they can't be at somebody's house 24/7. So on that particular case, I set up security. I was, with them along the way. I conducted surveillance on the suspect, and then we got some more evidence. The police, and they were able to. So that was one aspect. And then I had another case where a guy was falsely accused of elder abuse on his dad, and it was a crazy story. But I interviewed people that weren't interviewed in person, and were able to determine that it was a complete made-up story. But unfortunately, he had been filed on. But due to our investigation, they dropped the charges. So yeah, to answer your question, it's both sides. And it's funny you bring up Blue Bloods because my dad was in law enforcement. My uncle, My brother currently is. My sister-in-law is she was a district attorney in Chicago. Now she works for another agency and on the East Coast. And so that's what would be our dinner time, is that type of stuff.
So can we confirm or deny that the show is loosely based on the Peterson family?
It's out of New York, but maybe somebody heard about us and created it.
Now, you mentioned also right there when you were talking before I asked the last question about working with private people that need help because they're feeling uncomfortable, security and things like that. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So in this past year, we've seen a rise in burglaries and car burglaries and things like that. And that's always going to happen. And whether it goes in cycles with seasons or, areas, even a gated community. So I had a case recently where a lady who was a little bit older, living by herself. She's the mother of somebody I know. Next door, her neighbor got burglarized and got a lot of things taken. And essentially they went off of a trail that was open to the public, but climbed fences and did and basically went over her property and did this burglary. So I have camera people and alarm contacts and other tactics that we use, and different things of lighting. So we did a full assessment on the house. Is pretty big property, and just what we call is harden the target. So basically, we went in and made sure that maybe their access that they had before was denied, and we put barriers up to, and then a great camera system that she could look on her phone, and then alerts and alarms. And she does have dogs, and then different tactics, and we created a safe room and things like that. So many layers to help her out. And the burglaries continued. Fortunately for her, she never got burglarized, but essentially what these people were doing, they were doing it when people left for dinner. This was around the holidays as well. And so, whether it's an inside job, somebody that, knows somebody that works there, or they were monitoring the house. And then sometimes we'll conduct firearms training for some of those people that are interested in that, because that's another level that people, potentially want. This particular lady did not want that, but a lot of people do. So yeah, it seems to be more common these days.
Do you guys come in contact also with people that are maybe feeling insecure, whether it be, let's say, a stalker, a relative, an ex-spouse, maybe something like that, and they need some level of protection or peace of mind because of what they're currently going through?
Yeah, I have one going on right now where the guy's in another state and we're monitoring him there, and he made some very crazy comments. And that's another thing where you have somebody in another state, not too far, making these comments. So she got worried. So we did the home security there and spoke with her, and then we conducted the investigation out in the other state to track his whereabouts and see if he's going to be coming out here. And so it happens quite often. I've got one right now where this guy had just sent some pictures. Divorce. They sent some pictures to her saying, "Hey, did you have a nice date last night?" And her with the new guy. So you never know where somebody's mindset's going to be, especially this day and age. But yeah, and I think that's where we excel is being that calming force and talking through it and giving them examples of what we've done and what they can expect out of the police response and other things. But ultimately, the client is the one that knows their case the most, and then we work off of the information they give us.
Okay. I think initially when you told a little bit about what you do, you mentioned something as far as like background checks. Is that something you do for different businesses if they're looking to hire employees or different things like that? What kind of circumstances surrounds a lot of the background check services you guys offer?
Yes. So employees, on the extreme, I did one for somebody that was a very high level professor who was going to take a job in another country. So, that included interviews and and looking at every aspect of their life and essentially what the employer wants me to focus on. So I've got different people that have different needs. So, maybe somebody doesn't care that somebody had a particular, stole something when they were, 17 or whatever. And so they're looking at what's going to fit their company. So yeah, we do extensive ones, but then also I got a message today from a potential client that I'm going to talk to, and she believes the guy that she's engaged to is leading a double life. And so I'm getting a lot of those where, people are lying about their age, their income, all of this stuff. And one particular lady recently wanted to know what this person had, like, in terms of assets and things like that. And I said, yeah, you don't get that. That, you can't get that without a subpoena. So, but either way, especially with online dating, people want to know what they're getting into. And one client recently, she's got a kid. She didn't have a good experience with the relationship with this person that she has a kid with, and now she's being very cautious about who she dates. And so every time that she has somebody that she's serious about, she says, "Hey, do you think you can check?" And it's surprising. Oftentimes, I get a call on the tail end when somebody gets into a business venture with somebody, and then they're like, this guy seems fishy, but they've already engaged and they've already been doing business with this guy, and come to find out he's got 14 liens, judgments. He's a scam artist, and he's got, it's just nuts. But so yeah, it runs the gamut.
I think that's kind of interesting, and it's amazing you said about people jumping into business with someone and then kind of doing the research afterwards. I know I've told some people, odds are more often than not, you spend more time with that business owner than you do your spouse, but you're quicker to jump into a business relationship typically than you maybe have been to date or get married.
Yeah. Think about all the time you spend at work, and think about the trust that you put in somebody that is, you're doing business with, and maybe what you confide in them about. And also another aspect of it is you have, accountants, whether it's a high-level CEO or a celebrity or something like that, you have this team of people, and oftentimes they don't vet them. So fortunately for some of the clients that I have, they have, whether it's somebody that's well-known, they're like, okay, well, we need to know what's going on with this person. We want them to be a nanny, and they want them to have a good driving history. So that's what they focused on. And so we dive into that. Because a lot of times people say, well, what can you get in the background? You can get as much as you want. It just takes time, and you got to keep digging. So yeah, it's interesting how people don't do that front end due diligence.
Now, when you first again spoke, you mentioned something about executive protection. Can you tell a little bit more about that? Maybe some circumstances around that, and people that typically are looking for that type of service?
Yeah, it's if somebody an example I just had recently where it was a family dispute. I've been seeing a lot of this happen lately, where it's a guy who's sick, and his wife is caring for him, and then the sons, who are not part of not her sons, she's the stepmom, are trying to interject. And you see a lot of issues with respect to trusts and wills and things like that. And she was afraid, and so she called us, and then we provided 24/7 security to make sure that, and not only the security, but also you're a witness, you're a third party, unbiased person that is there. So if they do or say something that, they could even try to take this person out of his home and take him to another state, or basically I think the motive was money and maybe control over their dad. And it was a sensitive situation. So that's not executive protection per se. We kind of looked at it as, estate protection, and then also additional services on that. But, executive protection is we have a high level CEO or somebody like that, or celebrity that can't go somewhere without being recognized, and you have to have a certain set of skills to assist that person. And then obviously events and like I said, the estate security and stuff like that. But certainly it's kind of limited to people that can afford that, or that need that.
So have you ever been doing executive service, maybe around someone that's a little bit more famous and stuff like that, and had something crazy happen or odd or something that would be a funny story to share with it if you can?
You got to repeat that. It cut out.
I'm sorry. I said, so if you have ever been in an executive protection for someone maybe that's famous, a musician, a movie star, something like that, and had something odd come up during the detail that you could kind of share with the people.
Let me think about that. Yeah. I've had some great experiences. I've traveled the world. I've, met some interesting people and been very fortunate. One story, we this client, we how do I explain that? He has a show, and they wanted a particular, we'll say, costume for the drummer, and so we were walking in this particular city. It happened to be Chicago, and it was raining. We every morning we would go get coffee and walk, and we walked this sex shop, as they say, and but it was a male sex shop, and I didn't know it until we got like deep in there. It didn't have a sign on the door that indicated that that's what it was, right? So this particular client, really good guy, really nice guy, not like a pop star that's easily recognizable, so he could fit in, especially at a sex shop with another dude. And so he ended up ordering a bunch of stuff. Basically, he got a leather mask for the drummer to mess with him, and the drummer did wear the leather mask on stage. And he's another good guy. But they asked us if we were good on lube and other toys. I said, yeah, no, we're good, man. We're just gonna get out of here, and we took off. So that was, I get put into some of these unique situations, and typically I just need to blend in and be in the background, but sometimes I've got to be up there and get questioned about if we have enough lube. So, yeah, there's a lot of them. Yeah, and then one time we went. Maybe I'll add it a little bit later if I.
Sure. Awesome. So, what is the most interesting or craziest thing you've seen in the last month or two while working?
Man, so I getting back to the business dispute stuff. I did a surveillance for a business dispute. This guy borrowed money from this individual. They had a contract, all this stuff. So I'm tracking this guy down, and I got into a business, and it was in LA in the Wilshire area. And I'm in an alley, and I got a good position to watch the door and the entrance and stuff like that. And I was blending in as much as I could, and it's all good. So across the street, there was another business unrelated to what I was watching. And this, lo and behold, I look across, and this dude, guy, girl, person in a Halloween mask with an axe is just staring at me. And then these people are walking by, like looking at him. And then this car stops. But clearly this person was focused on me. Perhaps I didn't belong in the neighborhood, or they thought that I was watching their business. And so after some of those people and cars went by, they went back into the business. But that was probably the most recent where it's like, yeah, I've never experienced that, whether being on surveillance in law enforcement or this particular job. It was nuts. And so obviously on that thing, I'm thinking of my options. I didn't talk to the person, didn't engage a person, but I may have had they come closer with the axe. But they were dragging it it wasn't Halloween, this was recently. And so I I don't know what the hell that is. And somebody asked me, because I posted it, they asked me if I called the police and stuff. It happened so quick, and I used to work in LA, and it would have been about an hour or so for them to get there, regardless, unless they were engaged in maybe attacking people.
So I'm sure it's always an interesting and different day every day when you're doing stuff like this.
It's nuts. Yeah. If I got it. Yeah. And sometimes if I'm talking to somebody, I can say, hey, let me hang up the phone and deal with this. And my mind always has to keep going and thinking 100 steps ahead, especially in a situation like that, where I'm in an alley and there's a lot of cars around, and you look for exits. And so, yeah, but every day's nuts sometimes.
I can imagine. All right. Is there anything else you think would be interesting to share with people that are inquisitive and want to know, should I really call a private investigator for fill in the blank?
I think if they have a question, they could always just call or, message me or whatever the case may be. I mean, there's always going to be unique problems. And oftentimes I'm just talking to people and giving them advice, and I don't charge for that. And I like helping people, and that's why I do this. And so, if anybody has a concern, it's interesting. You mentioned those, like the TV show, and a lot of people are into it. So a lot of my clients will try to, not participate, but definitely be involved, and definitely be, because it's interesting. But so if anybody has any questions or doubts or about anything, it's always good to get another opinion. So I have no problem talking to people, especially if I'm commuting to LA or something like that. So whether it's, civil, criminal background, something fishy's happened or something like that, it's always good. And then I have a good network of attorneys that I trust, because those are sometimes few and far between. And I've got some good attorneys that will talk to you and give advice, and then hopefully, they get retained if you end up going down that road. But yeah, feel free to call or message me if you have any questions.
And what would be the best way to reach out to you if someone did have questions, Eric?
The business line, which is 714-406-3506, and call or text, and I'll get back to you.
Okay. If someone would like to do a little bit of research, do you have any thing online you could help give them some information, or where would there be good ways they can look and find out more about Peterson Investigations?
They could just go to petersoninvestigations.com and check that out. And I'm, trying to put more informational stuff online. The YouTube channel's connected to that. I've got an Instagram as well. You can look that up. It's just Peterson _ Investigations. And so I try to put as many tips and, educational stuff so people can know. But, once again, if they don't find it, then they could call. But so, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Anything else you'd like to share before we let people get on their way with their Saturday?
No, I'm good.
All right. Thanks a lot for coming on. I know people will appreciate knowing a little bit more about private investigative services and know when they should not contact you.
Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Have a good weekend.
You too.